Okay, hello everyone. We are live and we're excited to be here today. This is still Bavarde Talent Solution brought to you by Bavarde Talent Solution, and I'm your host Florence Idowu. This is the DEIB Small Talk by Bavarde Talent Solution. So we're still talking about DEI in talent management, and it is promoting diversity in promotion and transfer structures. Welcome to DEIB Small Talks. I have with me today two amazing guests. And the interesting factor or the interesting thing about this is they are both Nigerians. This is a coincidence, not planned, but I'm excited because now we present to you a Nigerian edition of DEIB Small Talk. We're going to look into the various topics that we've been looking since the beginning of the month, which is promoting or incorporating promotions in sorry promoting diversity in promotion and transfer structures. And I have with me Ayo Oduni and Ada Okafo. Before I introduce them and allow them to introduce themselves, I will just allow us to wait for more guests and more speakers, more listeners to join us. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Like I said earlier, I have two amazing guest speakers with me. I have two Nigerians, so we present the Nigerian edition. I have Ayo Owoduni, and I also have Ada Okafo. So I'll shortly introduce our guest. So let's meet Ayo. So Ayo Owoduni is a management consultant who has bring over 10 years of experience in coaching, in training, and of course strategic directions to not just small business owners but also enterprise level clients. And he has achieved so much. Ayo Oduni is originally from Lagos, Nigeria, and he also shares his immigrant experience and gives helpful advice through radio segments in Canada Broadcasting Corporation and of course in City News Kitchener. He's the author of some books like we can see on our screen. His book Value Culture Period, redefining the value of values to drive business results. And of course, the second one, which is inclusive leadership. Inclusive leadership is coming soon. Watch out for it. Higher Alton MBA in entrepreneurship and a life coach certification. He serves on several organization boards, including immigrantnetworks.com, Leadership Waterloo Region, Expedia.co, Adventure4Change.org, and Emergency Response Africa. He is a member of the Canadian Association of Management Consultants. Here are some of the organizations and clients that Ayo has worked with. And as we can see, they are indeed enterprise level organizations. That's not all. Before I bring our second guest speaker on board, I'd like Ayo himself to introduce himself. Hello, Ayo. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes. Hi, Florence. Great pleasure being here. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Ayo Owoduni. background in management consulting, focus on leadership development, organizational development, and over the past few years transitioned or branched over rather to diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially at the leadership aspect of the organization. It's a great pleasure being here with you. Hope this is a chance to share some of my thoughts and perspectives with your audience.
Thank you very much, Aya. I do appreciate. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, like I said, that is not all. I have another amazing speaker with me here, and she is also a Nigerian. Meet Ada. Ada Okafor is a general counsel and a chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer of the American Board of Surgery. She is the first person of color to hold the position since the board 85-year history. As general counsel, Ada leads the organization's legal, compliance, ethic, and enterprise risk management functions. She has contributed to a suite of diversity efforts throughout her career. Over the years, her concentration has been on implicit or unconscious biases, social justice, neurodiversity, health equity, disability, and a lot more. And Ada is also from Nigeria. Even though she was raised and brought up in UK, she's still Nigerian before she moved to the United States as a teenager. I'd let you meet Ada herself. Just a minute. I'll bring Ada on board. Hello, Ada. How are you doing today?
Hi, Florence. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone listening from all over the world, I'm sure. My name is Ada Okafor, originally from Nigeria. I was born in Delta State, Igbo, and my family moved to the UK when I was still a young child. And then we moved to the US when I was a teenager and grew up in various parts of the US, New York, Connecticut, Dallas, Texas is where my family settled. Then I went to law school in Washington, D.C., and I worked there for a number of years in Washington, D.C. for a firm specializing in employee benefits, tax, securities, employee benefits, ERISA, the Affordable Care Act. And then I moved to Philadelphia, which is where I'm currently based. I worked for another law firm before going in house and joining the American Board of Surgery as their chief legal officer and also their chief diversity officer. And as Florence mentioned, I've done extensive training in DEI. The DEI space is something I'm extremely passionate about, being a Black female immigrant professional myself, and a lot of the challenges I faced because of my different identities. And so it's something I'm really passionate about, and I'm excited to be here with you all to talk about it today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here today. And of course, I am Florence Idowu. You have to meet me too. And I have been also a talent acquisition and a DEI consultant. I have been a talent strategy and I've been helping organizations to amplify their need for unique DEIB strategies. I do this under the board of the Bavarde Talent Solutions that will provide opportunities for leaders and business leaders to partner with our HR strategic partners, which we call the HRBP, HR business partners. And we, of course, we also specialize in finding diverse top-notch professionals in the technical, non-technical, and creative role. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so now we'll go into today's business. I want to talk about promoting or incorporating diversity in promotions and transfer structure. Over the years, we all know that diversity has been a big issue. It's been a controversial issue and very sensitive. Organizations have been working on building policies around everything from in different organizations, in different industries, different departments, just to make sure that they build and incorporate an inclusive environment to this diverse set of people. But today we'll be having a unique face because we have the Nigerian edition. In our previous series, we've had various speakers from different aspects of the world of America and even outside of America. But today, fortunate enough, we have two Nigerians. Okay, so I will start from the very first topic, which is how can we promote diversity in promotion and transfer structure? Talking about it from the Nigerian perspective. Okay, this is how I'm going to do is I would let each speaker talk. I will start from Ayo before moving over to Ada so we can have it in a very balanced view. So Ayo, what is your perspective on this?
Thank you, Florence, for the question. I think my perspective will be different from Ada, which would be great because you get two different views. I have worked as a consultant, so I'm in the outside looking in, and I believe she will be from within looking out. One thing that I've experienced and I've seen over time is, and I call it the ugly truth about DEI that nobody really likes to talk about, which is okay, there are people at leadership positions. They're probably not leaving for another 5 to 10 years. They enjoy their job, they like it, they're getting paid well, they're not leaving. So when we say diversity at the top, when we say inclusion within the organization, many times diversity can't happen at the top until there's an opportunity, there's an opening at the top. So many times people are frustrated that their changes are not happening as quickly as possible. Number one. However, when I meet with the executives from within, they're confused and people are asking, are people saying that 50% of us should leave our jobs so we can open it up for other people? So I think those are part of conversations that we're not necessarily having. But one thing that I like to push companies to talk about and think about is your succession planning process. Is that diverse? Those that are the next potential leaders in the organization, is that a diverse panel? When you have a leadership development series within the organization or your potentials, are you pushing for diversity? When there is a change within your leadership, are you opening that up to diversity? That's number one. Another thing that I talk about is where do you find your pool of candidates? Many people, you'll be shocked by this, unless they have, fantastic people like Ada in their leadership positions. Many people don't know where to find black candidates most of the time. They put it on Indeed, and sometimes they wonder why people are not quote unquote applying. If there was a company I spoke with, they are in a city that had like 95% more, 95% whites. I don't want to mention the city, but I'm sure if you Google, you know which cities across the US that would have that. And they were like, we don't know where to find candidates. And I literally said, okay, let's jump in. Do you have a Redeemed Church in your area? And they're like, what is a Redeemed Church? We Googled Redeemed Church right away. Like I was confident there's a Redeemed Church in almost every city across North America, and there was literally one within 15 minutes of the place. I'm like, okay, do you have an African store close by? And they're like, what is that? We Googled African stores. There was one 15 minutes from their place. What are the local universities? Do you have Black student associations? Do you have the African Student Association, Black Engineers Association? Okay, let's look at the Black Chamber of Commerce. Literally within 10 minutes, we're able to pull all these places. And I said, if you reach out to them and ask them where you can find candidates, I guarantee every new Nigerian that comes in will know about your company within 5 minutes of arriving in the country. And literally within 30 minutes of just having a conversation, we're able to start pulling those types of things. So there are times when we want people to know more, but the reality is they're not sure because they've not been exposed to some of those places. But we grew up in those places. We know those things naturally. Every place I go, I want to know where the African store is so I can have jollof rice. I know I can get my fried chicken and my dodo and all those wonderful things. But to them, those are just that's new information. So at the end of the day, there are opportunities at the top, but we need people from within to be able to push leadership. We need people from outside to give them peace of mind and push them as well, spur and encourage through that process.
Hmm. Wow, jollof rice. That's the first thing.
Of course,
Let's
everything is so
forget about my jollof rice. By the way, I'm wearing my African print today because it's proudly Nigeria. I'm representing Nigeria full time today. Jollof rice. Oh, if you guys haven't tested jollof rice, you're missing. The organizations need to include that policies. Okay, so Ada, what would you say about this before I head to what we have said so far?
Thank you, Florence. And I love all the points that Ayo brought up. I'll use myself as an example. I am the only Black female attorney and C-suite executive in my company. And I'm based in Philadelphia, which has a population of over 44% Black. So you can see the dynamics right there. And I came into the organization through an opening. The former general counsel was retiring, and then they had also created this chief diversity officer position. So that's how I even found out about this organization. And then they found out about me through a reference. And so I can definitely see all the points he made, because I'm an example of an outsider that came in and diversified the organization rather than, the other way around. But I think as far as promotion, companies, they have a lot of work to do. Again, this is something I'm very passionate about as a Black female professional myself in the corporate world that has experienced a lot of promotions at different jobs. In the wake of 2020, I think that that's usually the starting point for this conversation. There was a lot of soul searching, a lot of impassioned statements from companies about social justice. And I think there were a lot of high expectations that would be the turning point where we would see all this like great number and increase in diversity at the executive level, C-suite, corporate boards, and that would show a lot of great improvement. And I don't think anyone expected it to go instantly, but I think that the glacial pace of increasing diverse representation at leadership levels has been disheartening to many, and the numbers don't lie. Companies, I think they can recruit diverse talent pool to a certain extent, but then they really struggle to retain and promote that talent. So, for example, in the legal profession, only 2% of all partners in the US are Black, if you look across the entire spectrum. And then when you go to the business space, only 29% of the C suite are considered 8% Black. I'm sorry, only 8% C-suite executives are Black, and then 29% of C-suite executives are women. And you have major companies, Walmart, Pfizer, Costco, even at recent as December of 2021, saying they don't have any Black executives on their leadership teams. That number might have changed. We're well on the way through 2022, but as of last year, no Black executives in these huge Fortune 500, 100 companies. So, the question you have to come back to is, what is the company culture? And so, does the company have this inclusive culture? Do people feel included? Do people feel valued? Do they feel engaged? And with all the changes that have happened in the last 2 years, you have the pandemic, you have virtual remote environment, you have the great resignation, you also have quiet quitting. And if you all have been on social media in the last week or so, you've seen it all over, which is people talking about it. What is quiet quitting? And, some people view it as people just doing the bare minimum to get through the day, and others view it as setting boundaries. I'm not going to kill myself for this job that doesn't respect me, that doesn't pay me. So you can look at it two different ways. So now more than ever, it's really important, I think, for companies to create an inclusive culture, which will then lead to an engaged workforce. And it's not easy. It's not a quick solution. It's not free bagels and coffee on Friday. It's not early release on Labor Day weekend. It's not those things. It's way more than that. And so companies really have to do some soul searching. Are we giving people meaningful work? Do they know that our policies are stated clearly? Are they fair? Are we giving people the opportunity to advance if they want to? Are we offering reimbursement for, say, professional development courses? Are we respecting personal boundaries? Are there emails coming in before, after a certain time? Are there emails on the weekend, on people's vacation, on people's maternity leave? Because those things happen, you know what I mean? Are people having flexible work schedules? Are we allowing people to choose where they work best? Is it the office? Is it home? Is it remote? Is it a combination of all the above? Is there a clear path of advancement? So I think once companies start doing those things, really that soul searching and having that inclusive culture and engaged workforce, then I think that promotion piece is less challenging because you'll have your diverse talent pool, and then they'll be able to go through the pipeline from junior entry level to mid level to executive level.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just like Aya said, and you also mentioned the same factors. Just one, I would say two words is succession plan.
Mhm.
What is the organization put in place to build a pipeline or a pathway that can allow people, not just even the diverse candidates, everyone, including the diverse, including the black, the people of color, the Asians, the Latinos, the neurodiversity, what pathway as organization put in place to make them grow in the industry? We've been talking about this since the beginning of this month. This is a third series on the same thing, and everyone has mentioned the same thing: pathway, the ladder. In CSUT, you are there. You're the only black. Even African Americans that would say that they are also people of color and they're diverse. Of course, they are. They would say that they are still denied certain privileges. The color of your skin has become your ticket to certain events, or your ticket um to certain ladder, or to certain authority. The second question that I would like to throw it to um Dr. to Hayo. Hayo, in case I had doctor to your name, please. I've been adding doctor to everyone's name since the beginning of the week.
Man, till today, my father still calls and says, "When are you starting that PhD?"
Okay.
So I think you're in line with. So sorry. Do you mind just repeating that question?
I haven't asked the question. I'm going to
Oh,
ask the question. I'm going to throw the question to you, and the question is, how can what techniques or measures can organization put in place? Let's give them some examples. Maybe they are out of ideas. What can they put in place to engage and retain underrepresented employees?
okay. The first thing that I share with everyone is develop your managers. One thing that I've come to learn is the person that an individual reports to plays a significant role in their engagements, plays a significant role in whether they stay in that organization, and also plays a significant role in their sense of belonging within the organization as well. So many times organizations want to focus on the culture, and that is important, that is needed. But the person that determines the culture most of the time is that individual that you report to. I've seen an organization where two individuals reported to two separate people, and their view of the culture and their view of the DEI implementation was very different because it was based on the people that they reported to. So, do you have inclusive leaders? And are you developing your people to be inclusive leaders? It plays a significant role in retention, in engagements, in creating a sense of belonging at the end of the day as well. When I use the word train, what people tend to think of is throw them into a room, spend 2 hours telling them about how terrible their lives are and privilege and those types of things, and then bring them out and poof, they're supposed to know how to do it. I have been watching YouTube videos on how to make moi moi for the past 3 months, and I still can't figure it out half the time in terms of all the right things. It's not just about sitting in a training room. There has to be other components put in place. So training, that's skilled or knowledge gathering, which is great. There has to be coaching involved as well. And then there has to be accountability put in place as well. Can there be KPIs put in place around soft skills? I know a VP of HR, his boss put a KPI where it was like employee engagement score must be at this level.
Mhm.
So every decision that was made, he knew that the engagement score, if it went lower, it would affect his KPI, affect his bonus, and affect how he performed for that year. That's the VP of HR of an organization. So everything was thought through every step of the way. What can we do with our managers? We're informing them. Can we also coach them? Can we also put accountability in place? That significantly affects things. Another thing that can affect things at the end of the day for individuals is what is their onboarding process like when they join the organization? There are many times when people hear about employee resource groups, but they don't hear about them till 6 months later or 1 year later. But what is that process like from the onset? If they only see Ada in a leadership position, people automatically think in their minds, oh, for me to get there is going to take forever, number one. Number two, I might as well start finding a different plan or different route. Center for Talent and Development shared a statistic that says one out of every three Black individuals are planning to leave their organization within 2 years. And more Black people now are betting on themselves and starting their own businesses than ever before. So, quite interestingly, people are looking at the organization and the career plan, and it looks like I am not part of this plan. So, I might as well find my way out within 2 years, based on what the statistic says. So, is there a mentorship program that you can put in place for new people when they join the organization? If you can find someone within, because Ada can't mentor, sorry, Ada, I keep using it as a reference, but
It's
you're the only one in the organization or the only one at leadership. But if she can't mentor 30 people, are there other external areas and places or non for profit organizations or leaders within your industry that can mentor them? Is that possible? That's number one. Is there an employee resource group that they can go to as a safe space where they can meet people that look like them, that can show them the ropes, that can inspire, that can encourage them through that process as well? So we need to be more intentional in organizations about these things. We are more sensitive to racism, microaggression, and things of the like than our colleagues are. So something that could offend you, your colleague will not even think about it. It- I can, they could ask a white person, "Where are you from?" And say, "Oh, I'm from Kansas." You ask somebody else, they're offended by that, and the white individual is wondering, why are you offended? So there are many times where understanding is not there. So it's good to have employee resource groups in place that can support an affinity for individuals within the organization. So
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to share a few. I didn't want to don't throw so many things, but rather than teaching people 12 ways, how about try three for now? And then 6 months from now, let's see where you are. And then we'll try some other things as well.
Thank you very much for that. I do agree with what you said, the onboarding process, incorporating diversity in your promotion not starts from the recruitment process. It starts from what policies do you have in place? Even after you bring in these people, you bring in the people of color, what policies, what practices? Because sometimes organizations have been building policies. They are all they have. We have a legal, we have a general counsel, you know what I mean? So you can talk about policies. They have been building policies. There are a lot of policies, especially after the death of Judge Floyd. There have been countless policies. There have been programs all around about diversity. Everyone is talking about it. If diversity were a person, if it was a person, it would have probably retired because it became very famous over the night. But that is not just it. Like Aya mentioned, train your managers. How do you train them? It's not just about the training, it's not about the curriculum, it's about the mindset. What do you instill in them? What is the organization culture? What is the practices? Because sometimes the leadership just give the say they do not practice it. Then I also mentioned something, the mentorship program, those that you bring, the catch them young that you do, those internship program that you bring, do you extend it to the underrepresented group, the black community, the Asian, even the neurodiversity? What plan do you have in place for them? These are food for thought and rhetorical questions that I believe the leadership should begin to think about and answer. Hada, you're also going to answer almost the same question, but because you are more into policies making and legal, so I want us to talk about immigrations and diversity. When we say diversity, of course, we talk about different people. But the small working paper I found, which quite long, but I'd like to read at least one or two things in it.
Okay.
Okay, so this worker says, let me bring it here so that I can see it. Yeah. Okay, so this says one of the economic benefits of immigration is that the diversity of population is enhanced. Of course, diversity, it is argued, enriches the environment in which individuals live and trade that may contribute to greater creativity. But what does diversity actually mean? Do current immigration policies enhance diversity? To what extent that there are gains from diversity? They come from the interaction of individuals from one culture or background with individuals from another. But do current immigration policies enhance diversity? So the question is, do current immigration policies enhance diversity?
I think that's a tough one. If you're talking about a national immigration policy, at least here in the US, um, I think the immigration reform has been a hot topic of discussion for a very long time. And through different administrations, you have you know, open borders versus closed borders, inclusion versus exclusionary policies. So, yes, immigration will always enhance diversity because you're bringing people from different ways of, different countries, different ways of life, different thoughts and models of thinking. But whether the immigration policy, at least let me just speak to the US because that's where I'm based, um, you know, it's a very politicized and very divisive issue when you talk about immigration that we almost don't get to the diversity piece because there's so much talk about build the wall, keep certain populations out. And I think because the rhetoric has been so charged about immigration, people who are even talking about immigration, I don't necessarily think that they know an immigrant up close and personal. I can speak for myself being an immigrant and how hard my family uh, worked to leave Nigeria and come to the West for a better opportunity. So I went through the immigration process as a child. And then I also went through the immigration process again with my husband and him coming here from Nigeria to the US. And so having that understanding from, two different time frames of my life and seeing how difficult it is to assimilate. That's one thing too. When immigrants come, the first thing a lot of them want to do is assimilate. They want to adopt the American way of life. I remember a funny story when my brothers and sisters and I first came to the U.S. We had very thick British accents, and sometimes you can still hear it come out. And I remember we used to practice how to speak American. So we said, okay, we say water, but they're going to say water. So we would practice. Okay, we say quarter, they're going to say quarter. So we would practice because we didn't want anything to make us stand out. Even I Americanized my name for a very long time. I People would call me Ada,
Mm.
because people alphabet, the emphasis on Ada, they call me Ada, and I would just accept it and say, yeah, hi everyone, I'm Ada, because I wanted to fit in. So on one hand, you have immigrants coming and then they want to become American, so even kind of like less diverse. And then on the other side of the coin, you have some, I wouldn't say all, but some Americans saying, okay, number one, we don't want immigrants. Or if we do want immigrants, they have to become like us. So again, I think that the diversity argument is there, that obviously immigration enhances diversity, but at least here in the US, I think because immigration is tied to so many things, housing, public benefits, education, all of those things. It's become such a charged argument that it's hard for people to see the benefits of diversity due to immigration.
Mm. Aya, do you want to add to that?
Well, I'm in Canada, so things are a bit different over here. Over the next 3 years, Canada is looking to bring 1.2 million immigrants in.
Mhm.
Um, Nigeria is one of the top countries where we're actually is number one in terms of the African country where immigrants are coming from. So Canada is in dire need of immigrants at this point. Our healthcare is in a crisis at this point, and we're not giving birth enough to enough people. So we're bringing it in, bringing a lot more immigrants in. So their goal is how can we make our immigration policy faster, quicker, and backed up. They're backed up significantly. My wife applied for me to come here, and that process was a very short process. And my citizenship, I just got my citizenship a few weeks ago, was a 2 year process.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Canadians, and we're complaining that 2 years is too long, and they're trying to find a way to make it quicker for people. It used to be 1 year before COVID hit. Now it's a 2 year process. So Canada's pushing and moving as quickly as possible to be able to catch up in some areas. Where we're not doing well is the integration into the workplace. So what tends to happen is companies are demanding for Canadian work experience. But a few months ago, our governor, Doug Ford, I forgot, I don't know why I've forgotten the name of his title rather, but Doug Ford had mentioned that it is illegal now for you to ask for Canadian experience. But one thing is something to be legal, and another thing is for people to follow it. So you still will get an email saying, sorry, we went with somebody else, but there's no reasoning behind it. But it's somehow tied to quote unquote Canadian work experience. But that has changed significantly over I would say over the past 1 year. I'm hearing of Nigerians coming in and getting jobs right away in the bank. In fact, I have a friend who mentioned that a bank here is looking to start recruiting directly from Nigeria before people even get here. So things are changing. I think what we've realized is the Nigerian talent pool is amazing. We're super smart people. So they're opening doors in significant ways. There are colleges here. There was a college I went to one day to have a meeting, and I thought I was in India because it was 99% Indians that were students in that college. So they're coming in through that pool, the student pool, because within 3 years or so, you can get like your work permit and your permanent residency. So within 10 years, you can become a citizen if you come in as a student. So Canada has some more like friendlier policies, but you have to be super smart. You have to be super educated, and you have to have a really good job. But once you qualify, they make it easy for you to come in. So our policies are slightly different from the US. But what we're looking to work on now is the integration process for people getting into the workforce and ensuring that first year of people emigrating, that you don't go through that hard period of trying to get credit history and get all those things that we all go through as immigrants. It was harder for me 6 years ago when I came, but for newer immigrants, it's like we've done all that hard work beforehand, so they all just jump in and they go through that process a lot quicker than we did.
That's good to know. Getting the two different experience from Canada and of course from the United States. And I can speak to the United States because I wouldn't say you wouldn't get a job, but for instance, if you graduated with a master's degree and let me use the word law, for instance. Law is a little bit critical. You still have to go to law school. Let me say, okay, let me use my department, the human resources. It might be very difficult for you to be able to cross
Mm,
to the human resources, which you experience in Nigeria here, except if you have the SHRM, Society of Human Resources Management certification, the international, that could give you an edge. But if you do not have that, then you might need to go through series of other trainings and certification just for you to be repositioned as a professional, human resources professional in the United States. So I agree with what you said, Hayo,
mm,
and also Hada. And one thing that I would like to say is immigration's policy in the United States may be a little harsher, but I believe over time it It would favor us. It will favor us. It will favor us.
And for anyone listening, come to Canada. We're looking for you. We want you. We need you. We're open to having you. Yes, the sky's the limit here. We want you. We don't. We're not doing any shakara for you here like they do in you.
Okay, and I'm going to say, anyone listening, you're also welcome to the United States. I know
You
it's a
are
little bit
welcome.
difficult, but over time, if you have the right mindset, like Ada said, if you position yourself and you're able to connect with the right people, the sky is your beginning, not the limit.
And
No.
I think an important point just to add to that, Florence, is that yeah, if people are looking to come to the US or Canada, there's going to be a transition period. It's going to be difficult to enter initially and understand the way of life. I think the media portrayal over to Africa is, these streets are paved with, gold and honey, and everybody's flashing big cars and big houses. And while there is some of that, a lot of immigrants have very humble beginnings. When my dad is a doctor, my mom is a nurse, but when we came over with 4 children, my mom wasn't working, and my dad had to do his residency program over again. So we actually had government benefits.
Mm.
And so you see those humble beginnings to where we are now. And so I think people need to understand that, that there's really no such thing as that overnight success here. You do have to work hard to get into the system. So
You do have to work hard to get into the system. There is no two ways about it. Even I believe, even in Canada, you still have to work hard to get into the system. Moving away, the transition requires a very huge change in mindset and, of course, in the way you approach things. So, either you're in the United States, either you're in Canada, or wherever you find yourself, your mindset is very important. Okay, so I have another question, which I will send it over to higher.
mm,
So now, how do we ensure our culture? Now, we'll be talking about organization culture, either Canadian organization culture or the United States organization culture. This question is going to go two ways because we have two countries with different policies. So Aya is going to answer, how do we ensure our culture proves inclusive enough to make people stay? Before you answer that question, we talked about how Nigerians, for instance, now when they come into the United States or even in Canada in 2 years, they're thinking of how I want to make the next move. How I want to. Nigerians, we have this entrepreneurial spirit that wherever we get, we are different. The way we think, the way we approach things, we're different, and we are pursuers of success.
Mm.
Oh, Nigerians are pursuers of success. You will always find them in a very high position, in very good places, very good professions, and we are highly professional in whatever we find ourselves if we want to be. If we want to be. But now, how can organizations now we've identified a problem. How can organizations ensure that their culture, their organization culture is inclusive enough to make the black community, the Nigerian immigrants, to stay in the organization longer than 2 years?
Okay, so just first to clarify that the stat that I shared talked about blacks, not Nigerians, but
Mm-hmm.
blacks in organizations. So of course, blacks does include Nigerians, but it also includes Caribbeans. It includes people that are born and raised in the U.S. As well. And it's a U.S. statistic, not a Canadian statistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to point that out, just for clarity for the audience. But in terms of ensuring our culture proves to be inclusive, number one question I like to ask companies: are you listening to your people? What are your people saying? Organizations like to do a yearly engagement survey. A year is too far apart. It's like me. I asked my wife today, how am I doing as a husband? What can I do better? And then I wait a full year. And then I say, I asked you last year now. So how am I doing this year? I don't think it's going to work out. How consistent can you be? Now, and I can't tell you how frequently you should do it. I do know of organizations that do sort of like monthly pulse checks. And pulse checks is literally like 5 questions. That's all they're asking, and they're looking at just some key, should I call it, how there's a balance scorecard? They
Mhm.
call it like their DEI scorecard, where they just ask 5 questions. Some people will do 10 questions and they do it once a quarter, but then once a year, they do the massive thing. Some organizations like to do their town hall meetings and they want to hear and speak to their people. So how can you ensure that you're listening to your people frequently? There are people that say, "Oh, we did a listening tour, and our CEO went around and listened to all the Black people and heard their concerns." And okay, great, that was 2 years ago, or great, that was last year. What are you doing to see where they are now? Why do we need to hear them now? We did a detailed 3-month tour through all our branches. It has to be constant, never ending improvement. What are your exit interviews saying? Are we reviewing that data to get feedback from those that are leaving? What is the pulse survey saying? Are managers having one on one conversations with their people? And are you ensuring that during the one on one conversations, the focus is not just on project status, but they also are asking, how are you doing? How are we doing? Every 2 months, I have a meeting with my reports, and we call it the heart check. How am I doing as a manager? What can I do differently to better support you? And they come to those meetings like, yes, okay. Uh, Today is the day. And those days, my job is to shut up and write notes and just listen. That gives me feedback bi-monthly from my team. And then also the pulse check provides feedback on a quarterly basis for the organization. And managers meet and have conversations. How's your team doing? What are you hearing from your team? So you need to scale this thing to operationalize it rather than make it events, make it part of your regular process within the organization.
Mm.
Until organizations do that, things don't usually change. And these types of conversations are events rather than part of the regular process.
Very, very insightful. Our organization's listening. What are the one-on-one processes? What do you ask? And one thing I would like to say is when we say black people, can't we just say everybody? Everybody. Why? Because when we talk about minorities, we're still segregating, we're still discriminating. We talk about ourselves as people of color. Are we not just people? We are whole people. So we shouldn't be defined by the color of our skin or described by the color of our skin and described by our community, underrepresented. Who told you we are underrepresented? If we were in, for instance, the Caribbeans, they're also people of color. If they were in Caribbean, would they say underrepresented? So now, because we are in a strange land or in a different community from our hometown or home community, doesn't make us less people or less represented. I mentioned something. What does your exit interview say? I was talking with one of our HRBP and she emphasized on exit interviews. Very important. I remember when I had to do some retention analysis, I had to ask, where is the interview? Because that is where we get truth, reports, to know why are people leaving. When people are becoming secretive about what they're leaving, you need to check what's going on. Because most people, why, oh no, I just want, I remember one of a director I work with, she left and she said she was leaving because she just wanted to take a break and relax. And the next 2 weeks we found out that she was a director in another organization. And I was wondering, I thought you wanted to take a break and think of what you're going to do the next step. So when people become secretive, when they become very secretive about why they're leaving, then you need to check into your culture. I'm going to allow Ada to also answer to this question because I would like to hear what her view is from the United States perspective.
Thank you, Francois. I think all the points that Io raised were just incredible and spot on. The pulse checks, engagement surveys, the listening tours, the town halls, the exit interviews, the one-on-one conversations. I mean, I think that, and then making those a regular part of the process. I think that those are all ways to really understand what for companies to really understand how they're doing in building their inclusive cultures and also maintaining it. I think some of those, though, might not lend themselves to people opening up and being real and 100% authentic about how they feel about the company for fear of backlash. So I think just to add as another, tool in the toolbox, maybe in an anonymous, I'm sure the surveys are anonymous, but even maybe an anonymous Dropbox, we have that a suggestion box and people are free to drop in suggestions, feedback, criticism of the company. So I think that that might be another avenue. And then as part of even before exit interviews, maybe even during people's evaluations. Sometimes you have the ability to do like a 360 or 180 review of the higher up. So in those portions of the evaluation, that may be another place for people to express how they feel the company is doing on building and maintaining an inclusive culture. But again, I think all the points that Aya raised were really great, and I think that if companies do start doing that, then they're going to actually get a better sense because from what I've noticed, companies have a very inflated sense of how well they're doing. They have all these things that they've done. They've done the um, solidarity statements on social media. They've updated their websites. They've brought in a diverse voice, diverse speaker to speak on, maybe during Black History Month or during Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month. They've catered in diverse food. They've set up their ERG. So they're like, oh, we're doing all these visible and tangible things. We think we have this inclusive culture that promotes belonging, whereas employees are thinking, I don't really see that, or even where it matters. So I think that it's really important to get a sense of what employees actually think companies are doing, and not for companies to say we are inclusive because we did X, Y, and Z. No, we're inclusive because our employees told us that we are, and that we're doing things that they value and they think are important to building an inclusive culture. So,
Thank you very much, Ada. Thank you. And I'm Nels Dropbox. Very good recommendation. Sometimes you do not have to wait until the engagement survey, or the interesting one is the diversity statement and the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. Oh, every organization has that posted on the website. Believe it's going to cover at least legal risk. Is going to help against that and say, oh, we advise some of this. But policies is different from practice. Policies, the implementation of your policies is what we say in your practices. And the more you build your employer brand as a diverse employee, or an inclusive employee is, the more it also helps the image of your organization, your employer branding. Words of mouth still go a long way. If an employee say, "Oh, my manager is this is not inclusive," words travel far. You don't know how far that is going to go, and you'll be surprised at what loss that may cost. Okay, so I just want our listeners to know that there's been some issues with LinkedIn. I don't know, but it didn't communicate. It created a new event, so the previous one had to crash. So, but those that have been able are redirected to YouTube. I want them to know that you can always send in your questions so that our speakers can answer if you have any. The other question that I'd like to ask is, let me just copy this so we can see it. Okay, so this we go to Aya. People are giving me reports. Okay, so how do we further engage the entire organization in the strategies? We were talking about in a number of strategies and how we can organizations can help incorporate their promotion, the diversity of policies in their promotion. So now, how can we further engage the entire organizations now, not just the diverse group, or like I said, the minority or the people of color? How can we further engage the organizations in the strategies?
Thanks. So think of there's a spectrum of people within our organizations. On one end, you have the people that are fully sold out for DEI. They're going to speak up and challenge people. They're going to step up and be inclusive leaders. They're going to sit in the trainings and read books, and are willing to learn and grow. And then there are people on the other end of the spectrum who think that, oh gosh, these people, they've come to take our jobs, or all they want, they're not going to be happy until they're CEOs. Those types of things. They're on the other end of the spectrum. And then there are people in the middle who can easily be influenced one way or the other by those around them. So when I speak to organizations, look, honestly, with those people at the latter end, for me, oh gosh, we're streaming live, so I can't really say my mind. Let me be as proper as possible. For me, we just have to manage those relationships effectively and make sure they're not influential people within the organization. We need to manage them. Sometimes we need to manage them out, most times, but we
Hmm.
need to manage those relationships. Those that are fired up, those can become ambassadors, and those are people that can be your champions, be your sponsors, be people that champion the cause in many ways. Those in the middle, many times people need clarity. Many times people need reminders. Many times people need to hear the passion of the CEO, the passion of HR and senior leadership around some of these issues. So that is extremely important as well. So how do we further engage the organization? They need to know about these things. They need to understand the numbers around diversity, equity, and inclusion. They need to know that diversity even goes beyond color of skin and neurodiversity and things that you talked about. Like you mentioned, diversity of thinking as well. They need to know about the dangers. They need to know about the benefits, the pros. They need to be reminded of the statements of the organization. So for me, we focus so much on the project management aspect of DEI. We don't focus enough on the change management aspect of DEI, which has to do with working with the minds of the people and the reminders and the encouraging, putting together a plan for the resistors, those types of things. So for me, I would say if organizations can do a better job around that area, just putting together a statement, plugging things in, sharing it online, sending an email to everyone and saying this is what we're doing doesn't fully work that way. There's so much more work that needs to be done underground as well.
There's so much work that needs to be done under the ground as well. Very correct. And like you mentioned, the organizations have been focusing on the project management. Oh, let's have a new initiative. Let's create a new initiative. Let's create a new program. A new what's this? There's something that most times is always training. DEI training. Let's do some employment DEI. Let organize it. Let employee give or provide to us their DEI projects for the year. Oh, I've heard that. I have seen that a lot. But what is the mindset? What is the I would mindset is actually the right word behind those projects? Change management. Are you is what as organization themselves as organization themselves put in place practices that can encourage this change. That can encourage this change. Okay, so I'm going to say because Adana is the Chief Diversity DEIO, CDEIO. That's quite a long title. You
That's
are
what
in
you say,
charge of.
gang, gang,
That's gang, 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 gang. If we're going to use it in
gang,
Nigeria,
type in.
that's a hot seat. Like Nigerians will say, that is eye connection. Show me the way. Okay, so you are in place now. You are the one in charge of this project, this change. You're the change agent. If you were to put in place these policies, in place the strategies, how would you make your organization engage, like fully engage in all this initiative, DEI initiative, DEI practices, DEI policies? How would you go about it?
Sure. So, as mentioned, I'm the first chief diversity officer of this organization. This organization has been around for 85 years. And really, for them, their awakening happened like most US companies during the summer of 2020 with George Floyd's murder, Black Lives Matter. And so when they brought me in, yeah, it was that understanding that I would be a change agent, that I would help them change diversity within their organization, but also help them with diversity efforts in the field of surgery, and with surgeons and physicians. And so my strategy, at least this first year, was to kind of set expectations that this diversity and the change that we're seeking is not something that's going to necessarily happen overnight, because there has to be a lot of unlearning and a lot of relearning that needs to happen. And, I had mentioned training, sticking people in a room and then having them come out 2 hours later and expecting there to be a change. And a lot of times there's not. If you think about all the things we go through on a daily basis, how many things actually stick and retain? You know what I mean? How many things actually stick and retain and change that behavior? Whereas when you tell people that this is a constant practice, this is something that needs to be done every day, that's when you're going to start seeing these changes. Diversity doesn't just happen between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Being an ally to underrepresented groups doesn't just happen between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. You don't turn it off as soon as it's 4:59 and you're out the door, you shut down your laptop. But it's actually something that becomes a part of who you are and a part of your practice. So my strategy has been to communicate that at all levels of the organization. So we have our staff, our day-to-day employees that we work with, and our staff is made up of everyone. You have HR, you have our communications team, you have our exam development team, you have our IT team. So all those different teams need, to understand that diversity happens within their departments. Diversity happens, at every level. Yes, I'm the chief diversity officer, but hiring me doesn't mean that all of a sudden the organization is diverse and there's no longer a diversity issue. Actually, this is just the very start. And I think that's what a lot of organizations struggle with, that they've hired chief diversity officers and then they tell their chief diversity officers, oh no, we're not ready for that. Oh no, you're moving too quickly. Oh no, there's no money in the budget for that. And you're thinking, well, do you actually want a chief diversity officer? Do you actually want that change agent? Or do you just want a token? Do you just want a talking head that can say, oh, look, we've hired this Black woman, or look, we've hired this Black man to lead diversity? And, so people need to understand that this is just the start of the journey. And chief diversity officers are great because they can formulate the strategy, they can give the strategy direction, but they are just one person and they don't monopolize diversity, whereas diversity is actually supposed to be spread out throughout the entire organization. So you have your staff, and then, as I mentioned, those mid-level managers, those people that have direct reports, they're especially important to focus on diversity understanding. And then you have your executives, your leadership, or leadership modeling the behavior that they want their employees, to show. And so my biggest thing has just been to communicate that diversity happens at all levels. Another thing that I've actually started looking into, and Aya may have heard of it in his work, is actually bringing white allies really into this diversity discussion. I've gone to a bunch of different, webinars and seminars at this point about how do we actually engage white allies? Because it seems that sometimes when we talk about diversity, we're talking amongst ourselves. We know the issues, we know the problems, we know what needs to be fixed, but then white allies, or let's just say white people, because we don't know if they're allies yet, or if, maybe they're still trying to figure out whether they're allies. They're not part of the discussion. And it could be for a bunch of reasons. Maybe they don't know the discussion is happening, or maybe they feel intimidated. Is this going to be a shaming? Is this going to be blaming me for what my ancestors did hundreds of years ago? And, it's almost like a kind of bringing them into the conversation, um, with a certain level of comfort. But I want to use the word comfort cautiously, because sometimes people do use "I'm not comfortable" to shut down the discussion. It's not, they're not genuinely uncomfortable with the conversation, they just don't want to have it. And so those are the people I think would be on the other end of the spectrum that Ayo talked about, the ones that say, oh, these people are coming for my jobs, these people, they want everything, we've given them X, Y, and Z, they're still not satisfied, or I'm not comfortable with this conversation. Those people, yeah, we'll have to manage them. But the people that actually want to have these genuine conversations and understand, okay, you didn't own slaves, you yourself did not own slaves, but you are a beneficiary of the slave system. You cannot deny that. You are a beneficiary as a white person living in America. You are a beneficiary. And we also have to have an understanding of this word privilege, because there are a lot of white people in the lower socioeconomic class that say, I don't know privilege. I'm not privileged. I was living in a trailer park. But privilege isn't just like a financial privilege. It's a social construct. It is a status as a white person, that you're going to be given the benefit of the doubt. That you can go to the grocery store. You don't have to worry about getting gunned down because of the color of your skin, as those 10 people did in Buffalo, New York, a couple of months ago. You don't have to worry about those things. You can be sure that when you encounter the cops, you're going to leave that encounter alive. So that's what we mean when we talk about privilege. And I think that it's very important to have those discussions and have free flowing conversations about these topics that we're talking about, so that there is an understanding, and so that everybody is on the same page, or on a similar page with a similar understanding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Aya, do you want to add to that?
No, I think that was spot on.
Yeah, I thought you wanted to say something. That's the right word to spot on. Allyship, that's a different topic. Because sometimes we're talking about ourselves to ourselves. We may not be taken serious. Let them talk, let them talk. That is what they'll say. Oh yes, we join you in the conversation. But those who are allies, the white allies, they're able to help also to drive the movement. And that is why when anyone tell me, "Oh, I'm an ally," what I do first is I check in. I usually truly like we have the true ally and acclaimed ally. So
Right.
I check: Are you a true ally? Do you fight for diversity? Because we're talking about people of color. There's quite a number of older people in that category.
And you have a lot of performers or
Oh yeah.
self-proclaimed allies. They've got the Black Yard Lives Matter sign in their front yards, the
Mm-hmm.
they've been to a Black Lives Matter protest, but they're actually not, because they're not doing the meaningful work, And so, yeah, the word ally is used a little too loosely for my taste.
Yes, it is. It's used a little too loosely. I've heard someone that said that because it smiles at me means it's been inclusive. Means it's been inclusive. Well, it's part of it, but there are other actions that shows that no. Oh no, definitely not.
Mm.
Diversity is a very critical one. And when we're talking about promotion in a room of nine, I'm glad you have a seat. If we talk about other organizations, in a room, maybe there's nine, probably we'll see one or two females, and definitely they are white. But if we are not there to represent, or we do not have a representation or a representative, how can they know? Like in our hometown in Nigeria, they'll say, how can we know where the shoe is paining us? How
Mhm.
can you understand our pains and struggles? How can you speak for us when you've not gone through, you've not experienced what we have as people of color or as a diverse group or as a minority? Today's session, we've been talking about promoting diversity in promotions and transfer structure. We've looked into internal deployment, we've looked into policies, we've looked into biases, we've even looked into immigration and diversity today. And the question is to boil down to leadership. What are they doing as a change agent?
Mm.
We talked about KPIs. We talked about there's another one I like to talk about is KPDs. What is the drivers that you want to measure? The indicators are what we use for measure. Diversity is you have your plan of action, you measure, you track, you review. Those are the three most important things. If we're talking about the scorecard, for instance, now you have your measures. Yeah, you have your scorecard. You have the metrics you want to measure. Well, after you measure, you track them, you measure them, you review them. That's not the end. It starts all over again. Diversity in promotion or internal recruitment or redeployment, either ways for promotion or transfer. It has to do with what practice the organization has in place. And your practice is your culture. So today, to our listeners, we may not spend our 90 minutes because it's usually a 90 minutes program, but I know that the month of August has been very impactful because we've been talking about this over and over again. And now I brought those that actually have felt what the pain is as an image, the discrimination, and we can hear what they said. Look in your inner circle, the leadership now. Look in your inner circle. Take a look at it. What practice do you have, or what policies do you have? If your organizations, if your employees are not included in decision making, but at least they can have a representation or a representative that can speak for them. In policies, what we do is we want to put our own people so they can speak for us. The same thing is an organization. And by the way, Aya is running for city council. I saw that. I saw it. I said I was going to mention it. If you're in Canada, I don't know what area you have, but if you're in Canada, please do support him.
Thank you.
I will give him a time to talk about it before we round up. But for people listening, for our listeners, we've brought to you food for thought. We've brought to you topics and mind provoking situations to think about it. Thank you. Now, yes, let's now go to the Nigerian aspects. So now for Dr. Hayo, since your father have said, when are you having doctor? So I'll be joining
Prophecy.
my father. I'm joining him in this. So, congratulations on running. I
Mhm.
believe I'm not so political minded, but I believe there was a primary. Have you done the primary? Let's talk about it. Let's use this avenue to promote you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So, local elections, you're not affiliated with any party. You can run independently. Um, so, it's more local politics. And I mean, this is something that I've thought about my family and I we've talked about for years. In fact, uh, the only thing that's held me back has been citizenship, waiting for the citizenship to come in. And a friend of mine cracked a joke. He said it took you a week before before you put your hat in the ring, so to speak. And my response was, I had to get 25 signatures, and my wife was out of the country, and I was watching our two kids. So trying to get the 25 signatures and do that was the hard part. That's why it took a week. But the reality is, it's a privilege to serve. I think Kitchener has been good to me. Canada has been good to me, and we're at that point where we need to start thinking differently. Just this year alone, 6,500 immigrants moved into my region, which is a combination of several cities and some small towns. 6,500 immigrants moved into this area. And when decisions are being made in the city that influence all of us,
Mm,
we have representation at the city level to ensure that our people are heard,
mm,
they're thought of as well. So that is important for me. And not just that, Kitchener is not just a city of Black individuals or immigrants, it's a city of all people. It's a city of
mm,
people that have lived here. Their families have been here for hundreds of years. And I want to
mm,
ensure that I'm serving them as well
mm,
through this process. So every day now we have a team of volunteers and we go door to door. We speak to people, our community members, we hear their concerns, what their issues are, we write them down just to ensure that when that opportunity does come up, we're able to vote. But there are some interesting things that we all should be aware of. Immigrants have the lowest turnout in terms of voting in my
mm,
city. The ward that I'm in has the largest amount of immigrants in all of Kitchener, has the lowest turnout in all of Kitchener.
mm,
And it's more the people that have lived here for years that end up going out, much older people as well that end up going out to go vote. So, I mean, we
mm,
have the data, we've had a chance, and people have asked me why, and I don't know. I don't know why that is happening, but that's what the data is showing us. So, I want to use this to encourage every immigrant out there. When I go door to door and I meet an immigrant, and they say to me, "Oh, I can't vote yet because I'm not, a citizen," I still have a conversation. I still give them a brochure. I still encourage them to get involved because we need to start galvanizing our people to start thinking differently. I think because the way politics is run in Nigeria, there's that mindset of, I have arrived, praise God. And we put our heads down. You just want to work, you just
yeah.
want to your family, but politics affects our everyday living. The amount of taxes that is taken out on a yearly basis, your sales tax, all those things, your property taxes, your trash, how often it's picked up,
Mm,
is determined by individuals within the city. And we need to be more involved. So it's quite shocking when I hear some of the stats, and I wanted to just address that. More importantly, that even if you don't vote for me, I would like people to vote for me if they live in Kitchen. But even if you don't vote for me, go out there and pay attention.
mm,
Ask people, what are you running for? What are your values? There was a Nigerian lady that said, "What are you standing for on climate change? What is your stance on this? What is your stance on homelessness? What is your stance?" I was so happy to hear that, to show that this mattered to that individual. But what I usually hear is people say, you're a Nigerian, I'm voting for you. And I'm like, no, no, no. Ask me more questions.
yeah.
Challenge me. Push me in certain areas. Let me go back and go do my research again to say, we don't have it right yet. When I share this
Mm,
is our plan for homelessness, push back. Chicago tried this. What are your thoughts on that? San
mm,
Francisco tried this. Don't
mm,
wait till it's in front of your house and it's a crisis that you say there's
yeah.
a problem. And that's what usually happens. We wait till it's a crisis to say it's a problem, whereas we should be proactive to think about some of these things.
Mm,
Thank you
So,
so
and like I
much,
said, you
Canada.
can go on my website, voteforio.com. My
Yeah,
information is there and what I stand for is there.
mm.
But please, whomever your local candidates are, call them, email them. They will reply you. They're required to, and ask your questions.
thank
Aya,
you.
can I just say you're so inspiring just to hear you speak and how passionate you are, and then just knowing your backstory, recently migrating to Canada, now running for office. I mean, that's just incredible. So kudos to you, and I wish you luck, and I hope you win.
I do
Thank
too. I hope you win too. And so, if you're in Canada and if you are in this area, please follow him and vote for him. And please don't vote because he's Nigerian. Vote because of what it brings to the community.
you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for staying with us to the end. Now we come to the end of the show. Once again, this is DEIB brought to you by Bavarde Talent Solutions. And I am your host, Florence Ido. Remember that Bavarde Talent Solution is one of organizations that would stay with you help you build your team and make sure that they're not just any team, but a team that understands the importance of being diverse and being inclusive. We've talked today about promoting diversity in transfer and, of course, in promotion structures. We've been having this conversation since the beginning of the month, and we come to a conclusion on this series, the August series, which is leadership. The work is in your hands. Take a step back, not just in policies, but in your practice and culture. Thank you for joining me today. Once again, I'm Florence Ido.